So, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests. Welcome to the 13th webinar of Local Governments and Municipal Authorities Constituency to the UNFCCC. We'll just give a couple of minutes for all of you to log into the system. Our guests, Duncan Booker and Kristen Mosdale, also has already been in line with us. So we will be starting in 2 minutes, just for giving us time for settling down. So I think we are now good to go for our 13th webinar of Local Governments and Municipal Authorities Constituency towards COP26. This is Yunus Arikan. I'm the Director of Global Advocacy at ICLEI Local Governments for Sustainability. I'm also conducting this webinar in my capacity as the focal point of LGMA constituency to the UNFCCC. Just before we go into the agenda, this webinar is recorded, and it will be available for download from the YouTube or watching from the YouTube later on. During the webinar, we ask our participants to be muted, and in the Q&A session, we will open the floor. You can also type in the chat box. Our colleagues, the presentation from Kristen Mosdale and Duncan Booker, I believe there is a complementarity between each other. So I suggest the QA session could be once they both conclude. But in case there's any burning issue, you can type in the chat. So let's start for our today's sessions. Just for those who have not attended before, this is a monthly webinar. We had this every year towards the COP. For COP26, it's already the longest preparatory COP in the history. So this is 13th. This started with February 2020, and it's going monthly. Every month, the third Wednesday, we're having these meetings, and you can also have the recordings available. The past. Just a recap. We are usually starting our sessions for a recap of why Paris Agreement is important, or why the UNFCCC process is important for local and regional governments, and also then we go to review of the agendas that has happened over the past couple of weeks, and then what to expect in the future. But for today, I will try to cut it short so that we can give more time, especially to have a dialogue with our colleagues from the UK, so that we can hear about their preparations. But just again on a recap, why Paris Agreement was opened a new era on global action. First of all, UNFCCC process started in 1990s. The first COP was 95, and over these years there had been a lot of efforts. The difference of Paris Agreement compared to the Convention and the Kyoto Protocol is that it's mainly three main core, let's say, differences. First of all, this is the first time a multi-level and multi-stakeholder action is envisaged in the agreement itself. If you look at the preamble paragraphs, you can see a very clear recognition of how stakeholders would expect it to be contributing to the process. So it's not anymore just national governments. Second, there's a clear intention to reach the 1.5 degree goal. It was for a long time a debate. And of course, this is an aspirational goal, but it's important that globally national governments have embraced this target. And climate neutrality by mid-century, again, a clear, quantified, time-bounded, and very specific commitment. And more importantly, all these three commitments or these three elements are an inspiration and commitment and responsible for all. For all, we mean national governments or observers and parties, be it in the global north and global south. There is no annexes of Paris Agreement as such. So that I think is again an important point. So what does it mean for national governments? The key thing is that the the current climate plans, which is called NDCs, none of them as of today fit for Paris Agreement because they were all prepared before Paris Agreement. Obviously, none of those principles are reflected in the first NDCs, National Development Contributions. Therefore, we should expect every nation to bring a new NDC before COP. And that is a key to the success. And all this happens at home, not in Glasgow. So that's a key issue. For local and regional governments, because we are referenced in the preambular paragraph with the recognition of the importance of our engagement, climate action has now been a core responsibility for all of the local and regional governments. Now, it's not anymore a voluntary action, but we are bounded to fulfill and to implement the Paris Agreement. And for stakeholders, of course, they also should step up and make sure the principles are reflected into our day-to-day life, business, and relations. But it is important that this new transformation is a benefit that is shared by every actor of the society, every stakeholder. It's not just those who are enjoying those technologies who are rapidly growing in terms of electricity renewables, but those who have access to these technologies, be it mobility, be it better housing, be it better agriculture or better planning. So this just and equitable sharing of the benefits of a new transformative era is a key, I think, for all of us. Let's continue. We are always tracking the latest plans. Every year, the Climate Conference of Parties is a cyclic process. And the country who has the responsibility of the 1 year before takes the responsibility throughout the year. So last year, 2019, it was Chile. So Chile is still the president. Chilean national government, Chile's Minister of Environment is still the highest level political leader to safeguard the implementation of what has been agreed in Madrid. Obviously, this is a huge responsibility because now they are being the longest serving president. She is supported by Gonzalo Munoz, high-level champion, which is practiced since 2015 Paris Agreement. And the incoming presidency, the UK government, obviously, because they are prepared to host the event or the COP, the body, this conference, they are doing all what it takes in terms of preparing the expectations, the initiatives, the announcements. Therefore, in fact, the responsibility of the incoming presidencies are even more in terms of embracing these relations and processes. So in that regard, an important thing is that the president designate, Alok Sharma, who used to be a minister for business last year, since the beginning of the year is fully occupied with COP agenda, which is really good because that gives him much more opportunities to invest time and energy. He has numerous advisors on finance, adaptation, and an action champion, Nigel Topping. And they also have regional, which means for Africa, for Asia, for Latin America, they have regional ambassadors from the UK government, mainly the Minister of Foreign Affairs or Department of Commonwealth Foreign Office is leading this process. Meanwhile, the UK government, in order to fulfill the expectation that this will be the most inclusive COP ever, they have created a number of processes, bodies. They started with Friends of COP, which are directly reporting to Alok Sharma as the president designate. And in this group, there's several national governments and some stakeholders. We have a mayor of Los Angeles, chair of C40, who is serving in this body. That, of course, is a huge entry door for us to have direct relations with the UK government. We have in the UK a special body called Cities and Regions Advisory Council. This is mainly for the metropolitan cities in the UK. They are meeting regularly, and there is another process called Devolved Administration Ministerial Advisory Council that is exactly referring to the relations of the UK government in terms of England, Northern Ireland, Wales, and Scotland. There is a civil society and youth advisory council that is both UK but global. It is also aiming to serve the preparations for initiatives and for exchanges of experience and making sure a good civil society participation is there. Here, I am participating in my capacity as ICLEI's coordinator or ICLEI's contact person. Though we know that neither ICLEI nor local governments are civil society as such, but engaging and sharing experience is always helpful. Therefore, we are excited for this process. One important thing in the middle of the chart, you can see that the most important update since last months is that officially now UN is preparing to host the whole preparatory process also online. The logic is that over the past year, there was no official negotiation session held. Everything was held as like a dialogue. So no decision making, no consensus building. So now they have started to plan this. This was announced by the UN Secretary General, and it was also a discussion between the parties, so that it may be possible that, first of all, there still be no physical meeting in June, but whether there will be a negotiations online, which means several documents to be agreed, even without coming together in person, if this could be possible, because it takes some capacity issues, some of the delegations are not very happy with the access is difficult, or time zone is not suitable, but technology and policies and practices could help this. For example, all the UN country offices are now prepared to host the negotiators for regular meetings in time, so that they don't have any problem with the access to the internet. So we expect that there will be a solution to be found. But if this is the case, this will also have influence to the Glasgow COP26, because this means that COP can still convene even with huge restrictions, and we will discuss and listen to it, the number of participants, durations, the measures on corona. So that gives important guidance about what to expect. So that will be the discussion today in the next couple of minutes. For local and regional governments, just to recap, we have adopted our roadmap. We want to make the COP in Glasgow the multi-level action COP, and for this we have several priorities. We are making progress in all those areas, but if we break down these in four, let's say, processes, the first one is to localize Paris Agreement, which means we want to raise ambition. This year, we have huge opportunities: race to zero, race to resilience, and race to resilience and zero are supported by action pathways and breakthroughs. These are all led by the champions. That is a huge opportunity. And then we would be hoping to bring more and more local and regional governments to these processes. Second, in the Paris Agreement is the NDCs. That is a key issue, because we wish to see new NDCs, and we wish them to be designed and implemented by collaborative multi-level action. We are very excited. There are several examples coming up. Peru, Rwanda, Chile, Dominican Republic, they have all presented NDCs who have strong elements for local and regional governments. There are some countries who are coming up, like Korea, Japan. We all know the reason why they were adopting climate neutral targets was because they had bottom-up initiatives of local and regional governments. Some of them were independent, some of them led by Minister of Environment. So we expect this to come on more effectively. We're expecting in the US there will be a new NDC to be submitted on 22nd of April. Hopefully that will be one of the good examples, building on the 4 years in the past 4 years, and through numerous partners like GCOM and many partners around that, we are discussing regional and locally determined contributions as a guidance, and we will see some of the countries could take it up. Then comes the climate action, independent from NDCs or other processes. There is action going on. So we are doing and cities and networks and their own initiatives on mobility, buildings, the GAP fund, divestment. There is new philanthropic initiatives like Mayor's Challenge, and there's a number of processes on circular economy, nature, food, and health, so that this makes us to be able to show to the nations that action on the ground is taking place. The third biggest element is that, and this in fact is becoming more priority, we want to expand the climate action by engaging different ministerial bodies, such as to convene the first urbanization ministerial. Ministers of Public Works and Housing could come, and with Glasgow, we'll focus a bit more on the climate justice and social equity. Among all these, this year, a priority will be mobilization of participation of events. Most of them will be virtual, and this will be what we will be discussing. I'd like to conclude with some guidance on the past before giving the floor to Christine. Over the past years, we have been attending these processes. What we see, there are three main channels of engagement. One is the UNFCCC Blue Zone, and this is the place where negotiations are taking place. There is also side events, and Action Zone is becoming more and more active since the Paris Agreement. Over these years, since '95, we have mainly been interacting by other interventions and some side events. For the first time in the history, in 2009, we hosted in the Blue Zone an LGMA pavilion. It was local and regional governments lounge. For 2 weeks, we were in the Blue Zone. We hope this could be replicated in Glasgow as well. In the presidency green zone area, this is in the hands of the host country. There has been also numerous experiences. Over these years, the experience in Durban, for example, was extremely exciting. The experience also with Paris, especially where the cities and regions pavilion was hosted there, was also very important. And in Bonn was a unique experience as well. And then there comes the city zone. That is the place where we have our local and regional government summits, and remarkable ones that every year since '95, in some ways we had summits. And this was in New York and Bonn and in Nairobi. Starting from Copenhagen, there was also this discussion to convene this in support of the negotiation process more clearly based on the local government roadmap. In Cancun in 2010, we had a week before in Mexico City. In Durban, we had a fantastic event at the City Hall of Durban. Obviously, the most recognizable of all of these was the summit in Paris City Hall in 2015. Meanwhile, independent from what's going on at the City Hall, in the cities, there are several initiatives are coming up. So this year, we will be aiming to make sure that we are active in the LGMA pavilion in the Blue Zone. We will for sure be very busy in the action agendas of the UNFCCC. I recall, for example, in Warsaw, that was the first Cities Day we had in Blue Zone. We would see how we can make sure Green Zone is very effectively used. And we will make sure at the Glasgow City Chambers, there will be strong, and across Glasgow, will be strong elements. So let's now listen from Kristen and Duncan of their plans so that we can now adjust our plans along these lines. Kristen, thank you very much. On behalf of UK Presidency, you're joining us. So we have been working with you over these months, and it's so good to see progress going forward. So we are eager to hear your updates in terms of how to prepare for the expressions of interest and other information that you would like to share with us. The floor is yours. If you have anything to show on the slide, we can show it. If not, we can keep you on the screen.
So I do have the guidance, the kind of PDF online guidance that I might show. I think that probably just makes life a little bit easier. Hold on.
That would be very, very helpful. Thank you.
I think, can you see? Hopefully you can see my screen.
We see your screen. You can go to presentation mode if you like.
This is, I think, it's not a presentation, it's a PDF.
Ah, okay. No, we see it very clear. Don't worry.
Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, depending on where you are. So I'm just going to sort of briefly talk through how the UK presidency plans on managing the space in Glasgow at COP, a bit about our expression of interest process, and where you can find information, and basically how you can get involved within the space that we manage. So on the screen in front of you is our publicly available guidance. So I think Yunus has already shared this PDF, but we can share it again after this webinar. This is just on the internet, which is why I've kind of chosen it as the guidance to talk you through, and it explains as much information as we're able to give at this stage about how we want to manage the space. So Yunus has really helpfully kind of split out the 3 different zones that there will be at COP. And we, as the UK presidency, would really like the green zone in particular, but also bits of the UK pavilion, green zone to be stakeholder led. And so in order to do that, we have launched an expression of interest process that is genuinely open to all those organisations that want to apply. And this PDF document, along with another link that we can share in terms of the application form, explains broadly what the opportunities are to participate. So there's a bit about what is the space. So obviously it's taking place in Glasgow. The blue zone is in the SEC. The green zone is in the Science Centre. And the information about those 2 different things, the 2 different areas and places are provided in the guidance and in the document. As you can see, there's sort of some background, generally a bit about the kind of COP26 summit. For many of you, this will all be very basic and you'll already know it, so nothing new here. The bit that guides, I guess, in terms of information, if you're thinking about getting involved and you'd quite like to, then there are a couple of things to kind of bear in mind. One is that the presidency has planned some theme days, and there are 6 theme days. 5 of them are linked to the kind of presidency's campaigns, and hopefully you might have come across them. If not, and there's overwhelming demand, I'm more than happy to come to a future webinar and share information about presidency campaigns. But the theme days are adaptation and resilience, nature, energy transitions, clean transport, and finance. And they are, they are the kind of themes of the day. And I would expect there to be interest from kind of LGMA organisations in having events that kind of fit with those themes, right? So as you will see, we are also planning a Cities and Built Environment Day, but I just want to make clear that if you are not required to be on the Cities and Built Environment Day. If that is what you would like to do, then great. But if you would like to host events on one of the other theme days, then please know that you are very welcome to apply to sort of suggest and apply to host an event on another day. So they are the kind of guiding principles in terms of the themes of the day, for you to sort of bear in mind when thinking about it. And the application form will ask you to kind of tick a box that says, which one of these themes does your event most closely align to? And if you are really struggling with that because of the type of event that you want to put on doesn't seem to quite fit, then if in doubt, do the Cities and Built Environment Day, because it will probably almost certainly tick that box. In real struggles, then message myself and Yunus, and I think we can probably work out how to provide you with any additional guidance. So they are the broad themes and will guide the types of events that we're thinking about hosting and kind of provide the sort of golden thread throughout the days. So then the question always comes, what else are you paying attention to? What else do you want to see? And I think it's really worth highlighting that a couple of things. So one, this is for UK presidency managed space in terms of the opportunities. And so that applies, as I said, to the green zone in its entirety, and it applies to kind of UK managed space within the blue zone, but that is actually relatively limited and done mainly in conjunction with the UNFCCC beyond the UK's own pavilion. And so the vast majority of this expression of interest process is about events in the green zone. And I would really, really encourage you to think about collaborating with other partners. So we are expecting a huge amount of interest from organisations to put on events in the green zone. I really want to see loads of interest from the LGMA, and that would be great. Just think about who else you're wanting to include and think about as part of your bids. You know, what is it like? Is it collaboration between different levels? Is it collaboration between different types of partners? There's lots of different ways to think about it. This doesn't have to mean that, you know, it's not like a strict thing. Just think about how it's incorporating a few different types of partners perhaps, or just showing some level of collaboration and that kind of thing. I think that's really key. Further down in this document, there is guidance about the fact that we're looking for things that demonstrate sort of inclusivity, thinking about climate that impacts on the most vulnerable, and those types of criteria in terms of what we're wanting to highlight. So definitely worth reading through the whole guidance document. I know there's a lot of questions about kind of what type of space is there, like what is it that we're really applying for, and this document endeavours to try and answer that in the sense of provide as much information as we can. So there is sort of, I should always caveat this with, I have never been to a COP, so I don't know exactly what a pavilion looks like, but I think that we will not be able to replicate exactly full-on pavilions within the green zone. It's just not that type of space. There is, as it says here, some exhibition space available, and this document, guidance document, talks about the size of the exhibition space. You might not want to use the planetarium or the IMAX cinema, etc. But exhibition space for like 1 or 2 days, exhibition space for 2 weeks. That is probably, this exhibition space is as much as we have that is kind of similar to a pavilion. What I'm not able to tell you is this is how many we have. And that is partly because we don't have a huge number. So I should just clarify, we don't have a huge number. But if obviously that's what you want and you really want, then great, like apply for that. This is not to discourage you. But the reason we can't really say is that COVID restrictions and stuff mean that we may or may not have to have different amounts of spacing between them, etc. And so we aren't really saying any kind of number as to how many, because we just, to be honest, don't really know. But overall, it's not a huge number because that's just not the type of space that science has. So there's those types of exhibition spaces. And then there is, as I said, other types of events. And then the theme days. Overall, it is open. I think this guidance document says as much as we are able to say in advance. So I would heartily encourage you to apply. It also doesn't need to be perfect. I think we recognise that it is February and this event is happening in November, right? So please don't worry about, like, we have this really great idea, we're really confident we'd like to include these people, but they haven't said yes yet or anything like that. That doesn't really matter, right? All of these things change, right? So that is that. I think we are obviously planning on the basis of a fully physical COP. I think it's completely, that said, bear in mind about whether or not you could turn this into a virtual event, because that may be needed. So just sort of have a bit of a think about how easy it is. It's not a requirement, obviously. There are certain types of events that will happen in the green zone that we can't virtualize, so it's not a requirement, but just worth bearing in mind whether you could or not. Yeah, I think, and then finally, if you have any questions, then we'll obviously use this forum, and you have the opportunity to ask now, but also ask, feel free to email me if I kind of become slightly overwhelmed with demand. I might save them all and have a chat with Yunus, and we'll think about how we answer them. I don't have time, unfortunately, to kind of talk through different opportunities with lots of different stakeholders, but I can hopefully provide some level of guidance, and really hope to read through lots of applications from you all. But I think that is it.
Thank you, Kristen. It's already a huge, I think, privilege for us to have a direct access to this information via presentation, and we will make the best use of the time here so that there could be interaction. I already see some points raised by colleagues, and I have some notes, but let's now immediately go to Duncan, so that as the host city, what is their plans, and then we have the discussion all together, if it is okay for you. Duncan, I also know you would intervene verbally, so we can keep this presentation off up on the screen if you like, Kristen, so that in case in the Q&A session we can come back to it. But Duncan, the floor is yours now.
Thank you very much, Yunus, and thank you, Christine. Hello, everyone from around the world. It's always a pleasure and it's a real privilege for me to engage with my friends and allies from the world of local and regional government, wherever you may be. It feels in policy terms like I've come home. And I hope that you will find, when circumstances allow and you come to my home city of Glasgow, that you too have come home for a conversation about carbon, climate and social justice, both at COP26 and of course at many other times. Because one of the key issues for Glasgow as host city is that we are looking to gain a legacy from the arrival of COP in our home city, and we are looking for it to add momentum to our existing policy ambitions, especially for our target year of achieving carbon neutrality for 2030. And as part of that, we want really to engage in a series of policy conversations with our peers from cities and local government around the world, knowing that whatever national ambitions are stated at COP26, it will be the cities and local government of the world that will deliver them. And that place-based approach, I think, is going to be a really important part of the kind of conversations we have in the run-up to and during COP26 itself. And in that light, therefore, what we've been doing as a city is very much trying to get around the world through the support of ICLEI and Yunus in particular, through digital platforms such as this one, to engage in that proper space, not with nation states, because that's for the UK government, but with cities and with local government to make common cause for the things we know we need to deliver if those national ambitions are to be made real for our people in all their diverse communities. And to that level, we've been engaging especially with our peer cities and city networks, and some of them, which you'll see on the bottom of some of Yunus's slides here, I know are on the call here today: C40, UK 100, COSLA, our own local government representative organisation here in Scotland. And those are the places where we know we need to engage in a conversation about carbon and climate. And we'll be looking to welcome them, if we can, and their mayors and their leaders to Glasgow as part of what we're calling a host city zone, especially based around our city chambers, which is our Hotel de Ville for Glasgow, as well as other municipal assets which we have in the city centre. And as Yunus showed you in one of the previous slides, there's very much an active invitation to our friends at LGMA, as well as other of the groups on this call, UK 100, COSLA and C40, to come to the city chambers to speak with the leadership of the council, to engage in those conversations, which we know we need to continue after COP has left Glasgow, hopefully with a world-saving set of commitments from the nation states involved in negotiations. So we want to create as well a platform for our cultural sector, because we know that's important to give people a sense of agency, a sense of meaningful engagement with the rather difficult science of climate change, with our business community. We want to see a trading and business legacy of hosting COP, and especially with our communities. We know that we need to engage in a meaningful conversation with our communities and all their diverse experience here in Glasgow, as I know all of you will wish to do in the places that you're coming from around the world. And to that extent, we are looking therefore at kind of curating a program and set of activities for our host city zone. And we're not inviting applications in that sense. So we're not like the green zone, but we are actively seeking partners, friends and allies, many of whom of course are on this call here today. And just to give you a broader sense of what that will look like in Glasgow city centre, our medieval cathedral will be given to faith groups. We have 2 city centre university campuses, which will be very active. One of them very much a pathfinder for engineering solutions around climate. Another is the host for the Centre for Climate Justice, founded by Mary Robinson. So you see there the twin poles of physical engineering and social policy brought together in the city centre of Glasgow. We also have our Chamber of Commerce based in the city with that business legacy we want to achieve. And we will also be offering space for our principal civic society group called Stop Climate Chaos Scotland, which is an umbrella group for more than 45 NGOs, many of them well known around the world. So as I said, we're curating something, not inviting applications, but what we want to do is engage in that conversation with the world. Normally, I would be inviting all of you to come to Glasgow in August, in September, in October, before COP, but we know that's going to be difficult. And as Christine has said, we'll have to see what emerges in terms of what we can do for COP. But I do hope that we'll be able to see you back in Glasgow after COP26 as well. And just to say in that light, The 13th of November is a really important date for us. We want to see a legacy. We hope the world will have enjoyed its time in Glasgow and will have left with a series of agreements that reset our trajectory post-COVID and with the climate emergency already we knew to be looming over us. And it will be the job of our cities, it will be the job of local government to deliver on those national ambitions, to lead the way. And just finally, I want to thank Yunus especially and LGMA for engaging, allowing us as a city to engage with the conversation around the world, and especially the leader of the council, I know, is really pleased that the 7th pillar has been added to the multi-level action COP planning for climate justice and social equity, because we know that all of what we talk about needs to be meaningful for our communities and for our people. And one of the key logos for Glasgow is people make Glasgow, and people make Glasgow greener, people make Glasgow welcoming. And I look forward to seeing you all in my city sometime soon. Thank you, Yunus.
Excellent, Duncan. It's so exciting. And I'm also very happy because in the list of participants of today's webinar, we also have other stakeholders joining us in various efforts. And I'm very happy that they're also able to hear your vision for other stakeholders, business, faith, research, and also especially climate justice groups. So the floor is now open. I see already 2 questions, but those who wish, I think we can also unmute if needed. So just give us a shout so that we can do this. I see already a raised hand. Before this hand, let me read Eva from Climate Change Association. She was asking, Kristen, a question to you about if there was an application that bundles these themes. How do you work on that? So that an application that touches all the 5 campaigns and then cities. That could be the question. Mark Major from Slocat, our colleague from the transport community. How will the UK presidency ensure a meaningful link between blue-green zone activities and the negotiations political decisions to minimize the risk they become parallel unconnected activities? Colleagues, once again, you can also start raising your hands and we can ask you to give you the floor. Let me just see who has raised hand now. Oh, it seems it was me. So nobody raised hands. And Burcu has a question. So to highlight circular economy and in the green zone, what is the suggestion? So circular economy is not one of the themes directly. Maybe Kristen, that can again be a point for you. Or do you suggest built environment day? Maybe, Kristen, if you can just get back to this point on the sense that I have 2 questions for you. One, you said that there will be theme days, so 6 days. Do you have a sense of potential calendar dates of these 2 weeks? That could be one thing. And in relation, how the opportunity to convene events outside these themes, because we know COP duration is around 10 days. And then you add a 6 days. So what will happen in the remaining days? And obviously this exhibit space is a big issue, I guess, because we are hearing some colleagues are preparing the logic that as long as we can secure in the blue zone pavilion, that, for example, we'd like to have in the multi-level action pavilion in the blue zone, but outside those who have that for 2 weeks or for 10 days of the COP, a space for cities and built environment as the terminology used, or local and regional governments. And it all depends on the conditions, of course. So again, Kristen, these are the questions that you have seen, I guess. Anything you want to provide feedback? I see 2 more coming up. Maybe you can wrap up. I see Jan-Francois from City of Paris. I'm sure you all know him very well. Will City of Glasgow organize a mayor summit during COP26 is a question to Duncan. And Nupur Jain, I don't know Nupur, but I'm just reading your question. How can a digital platform that is not a civil society, but a stakeholder discussion facilitation platform participate in a side event? That is a bit technical. So Christine and Duncan, maybe feel free to pick up however you wish to respond, or anything that you want to additionally share. Yeah, go ahead.
Shall I think there are sort of a few on a similar type of theme that I will endeavour to kind of answer together. So Eve, if I would recommend that you put the Cities and Built Environment Day for no other reason than because it will then make its way to me. So some of this about picking, so about picking the different themes is designed to be, what is it closest to? Because, you know, there are lots of different people across government who have a view as to what they want, have responsibilities for so the theme days, you know, different departments and stuff have different responsibilities for their days, and will have different views about what they would want, etc. And so some of this is just about helping us manage and review the vast number of applications that we're expecting. So as I said, if in doubt within this group, I would recommend that you put the City as a Built Environment Day. If I think you should really be on another day, then I'll put you on another day, if that makes sense. So some of this is a bit about, you know, this is meant to be your kind of, what is it closest to? Don't worry if it doesn't exactly fit the box. But it's just, part of this is just helping us genuinely manage the applications that come in and the review process and that kind of thing. So I think that kind of picks up that, and the circular economy, again, depending on what the application actually looks like and what other things, you know, what other events might come in around the circular economy. We'll just have a discussion about where we think that fits best within the 2 weeks. So would probably still recommend, though, that you pick Cities and Built Environment Day, even if it doesn't link to built environment. I think that's fine, just put it in. With regards to your question, Yunus, around the calendar, so they are 6 days. There are obviously more days than that, but I think except this is just, some of this is that there will be more events around a theme than fit on a theme day. Cities and Built Environment is a clear case where you'd expect some of these types of events to actually fall on some other days. But there are also other things going on in terms of negotiations and political leaders and those arriving, etc. And so there are only so many days that we want to say from the get-go, like now, however many months in advance, are already going to be about these things. We need to allow ourselves a certain amount of flexibility. And so that's just kind of, we've said what the themes will be, and we can make assumptions about the number of days, but a little bit depends on just how things pan out and what applications we get. I think it is incredibly likely, but not certain, that the Cities and Built Environment Day will be towards the end of the second week. Is my expectation, but that sort of, you know, we haven't settled on it all yet, but that is my broad expectation. Similarly, what's not yet settled are the plans for the action zone, so, you know, I'm part of a virtual team that includes cities and regions colleagues within the Climate Champions teams, some of whom will be very familiar to you all. And so we want to ensure that that sort of coordinated, whether, you know, exactly how we think it's best to bring them together, whether it's the same day or whether actually we want to spread it out a bit, depends a little bit on what we get back and sort of feedback from stakeholders and just those discussions that we have slightly later. But obviously there are a few different opportunities, and we would like to ensure that it kind of flows over the 2 weeks whilst working for the community and working for kind of, and providing a profile and a platform. With regards to the question about sort of a meaningful link between activities, I think that's part of what the theme days are really trying to provide, is a sense of coherence that sort of flows through everything that the UK presidency can control and influence, and the green zone, etc., that kind of does all flow together, is exactly what we are trying to achieve, whether we do so successfully or not. You can all see my battery's dying. So I think, you know, I don't know how successful we'll be. You'll have to judge it in November, but I think that is kind of exactly part of the reasoning behind having these kind of theme days, is to ensure that there is sort of a link and not make them feel too disconnected, and sort of guide our planning so that we bear in mind what is it that we want to come out of this day, how do we link those things up. And then I think and then on the kind of the platform question, I think that needs to be sent to me offline, as I'm not sure entirely how to answer it. I think that covers most of the questions.
That's great. And we also just like to secure our colleagues in this call and that we are, Kristin is particularly aiming to serve cities and regions, stakeholders, community. So we are privileged to have this direct access with her. So this session is not the last one. We will continue to exchanges as we are aware of her workload, but I think there is doors open already that we have been using for a long while. So when more questions comes up, that could be another opportunity we can check. For those who are following the negotiations, be aware, the end of this month, which is before the deadline, there is a meeting of the Bureau of COP, which is the president, current president, the incoming presidency, and the parties and the secretariat. They will decide the next couple of months, and maybe they may also give some guidance on the COP in Glasgow. So it will also be helping us to shape our minds. So, but these are things to keep in mind. Duncan, anything you would like to respond to Jan, or any other point that you want to add?
Thanks, Yunus. Yes, in response to Jan, a simple answer, definitely yes. We will want to have a Mayor's Summit hosted in our city chambers in Glasgow during COP26, but we will not want to do so as a host city on its own, but only in collaboration with our key partners that represent cities around the world, many of which are on the call here today, such as C40, LGMA, and so forth. And it may be that there is more than one Mayor's Summit if we include a local element with UK 100 and COSLA, for instance, to really focus in on the policy circumstances of Scotland and the United Kingdom. But yes, we will want to do so. However, following up on what Christine was saying there about scheduling, and particularly for the Day on Cities and the built environment, I think we will want to be, very mindful of when mayors are likely to come into Glasgow, because we know that we will only have them maybe for 2 or 3 nights. They won't be here for the full event, for understandable reasons. So if, for instance, they are in the green and blue zones for the Day on Cities and the built environment during the daytime, we maybe will therefore offer a civic reception in the evening for them, and then maybe a hosted summit the next morning. So we need to be sort of scheduling those things in maybe nearer the time, but the answer is definitely yes to Jan. And for Bursu especially, on the circular economy, just more broadly, this is a key area of interest to Glasgow, and I know many of our partner cities. We launched a circular economy route map just at the end of last year. And just to let you know, next week, we'll be launching a circular economy challenge for SMEs, small and medium enterprises, with our friends from the city of Copenhagen and the Danish Business Association, together with the cities of Amsterdam, New York, and Toronto. So again, that's a good example, I think, where COP26 helps push those existing ambitions that we've already got. COP26 does not tell us anything hugely much about the circular economy we didn't already know, but it helps us, I think, to build alliances, share experience, and grow a community of practice, and that's really important.
Excellent, Duncan. Thanks a lot. Let's continue to the rest of the couple of minutes. And Duncan and Christian, feel free to join and stay with us. So we would be happy to. I would like to share a couple of calendar updates in the next couple of weeks and days. But before going to that one, just to recall this chart, and at the end of this column, we particularly proposed our plans or vision that we have been discussing with the LGMA for a couple of months, and obviously it will all depend on the final planning. But for sure, in the blue zone, we would like to have much more presence than ever. It would be, for example, the biggest pavilion in the blue zone since 2009. In the green zone, we would like to see as much as engagement as Christian described based on the guidance. By the way, the application for the 5th of March to the UK government will also be discussed or considered in the planning of the UK blue zone. So I think that is something that you may think about it. And again, this is the final decision of the UK authorities, but you remember when this we will discuss in the next couple of days. In the blue zone, parties have their own pavilions and they have the decision to open this for others. And several parties, EU pavilion, China pavilion, Dutch pavilion, German pavilion, had always been hosting these events, and UK pavilion is one of them. And very likely this application that you would submit to the UK government can be considered for the blue zone events inside, and plus the LGMA-led pavilion and many others we'll see. Coming to the city zone, as Duncan mentioned, for many months we have been sharing the idea that we would like to have a multi-level action summit that is building on the resilience, building on the spirit of Paris, but also in Bonn, where we had state of North Rhine-Westphalia, city of Bonn, and the government. So here in this case in Glasgow, we'd like to work with Scottish government, others, local and regional governments who would like to contribute, so that this is a multi-level action summit. It could have preparatory meetings, some other elements, but the logic, what we want to make sure is that the sequence of events, the race to zero announcements that you are hearing now with the champions, the citizen built environment day that the UK government wants to build, and the local multi-level action summit with the chamber hosts should all be mapped very carefully, as Duncan mentioned, that especially the travel accommodation should be safe for participants, but we also have to check when it comes to virtual opportunities, how do we have to plan? So we still have time, but definitely there is a keen interest. And one final point, in the next couple of webinars in March and onwards, we would like to invite Scottish government and the Italian government, who would also like to share their plans how to welcome the world community to COPs in their territories as well. So there will also be additional opportunities. For example, the pre-COP in Italy, they will also have their applications by June. So more to come, definitely. Just again, continuing in the next couple of, what to expect in the next couple of months. I hope my laptop doesn't upset me down. So as we said, now virtuality is becoming a core issue. Today there will be another show slide I will show. Tokyo is hosting an important event with Bloomberg and Nigel Topping and governors and mayors around the world. In March, there will be an event of the UK government on climate and development ministerial, and we're expecting more information to come from the stakeholder engagement. It is particularly focusing on the vulnerable communities and countries, but for local governments, we have a particular event on the 17th and 18th of March. The Japanese government will host the Net Zero Cities Forum. That for us is the biggest event we are planning to use in the next couple of weeks. We are already happily secured both Gonzalo Munoz and Susan Aitken as among the leaders who will address this event. This will be like a kickoff for our 2021 engagement, and Minister Koizumi is doing his best to engage national governments and other UN agencies. So it will be really an impressive, let's say, elevation of our work, and several announcements could be expected. April, the key is the 22nd of April, Earth Day, the US-led summit, US NDC, ICLEI World Congress will also be convened with Malmo. And in May, June, July, August, we will have to see, but we're expecting to have G7 summit in the UK, G20 climate ministerial, a decade, UN decade for ecosystem restoration, EU climate law, elections, obviously in the UK and Scotland. We will have our colleagues to have their domestic issues a bit focused in the May. In Africa, we have Rise Africa, US Conference of Mayors, traditional summer meeting. These are the avenues we can expect, and during this period now, regional climate weeks dates are confirmed, so there will also be opportunities. Most of them are virtual. September, October will be obviously pre-COP and the G20 summit, just a couple of days before Glasgow, summits of food and IUCN or TED countdown. We will have federal elections in Germany, which will shape the future of the EU politics as well. And expected that there will be a biodiversity COP in China. And November is obviously Glasgow. And we will see what will happen later on in the year, especially for the desertification COP. Here you can see the Tokyo Time to Act event with speakers confirmed. It is a collaborative effort of Tokyo with C40 and ICLEI, and it's been received very strong support from the champions as well. It is, it will be a live event you can watch on YouTube. According to the timing, it is 1 p.m. in Europe, it is 12 a.m. in the UK, and it is 9 a.m. in Japan. You can see that our Japanese partners, hosts, have done their best to make sure partners in Europe and transatlantic can also attend as much as possible. But we are excited to hear announcements from Tokyo. Tokyo is the host of Olympics, and they are very active in buildings, which is a topic that is we're speaking to the heart of the COP as well. So we invite you to join this, and we are very proud that ICLEI's Japan director and director of the Japan office, Togo, will moderate this event in his capacity to support Tokyo Metropolitan Government as well. Website you can check in the next couple of days. We will continue to update. In this webinar, you can also see the links to other sessions. So maybe I can conclude. We have 4 more minutes. Any points to raise from partners, audience joining this session? Feel free to address. I see Jan is responding to us. He's saying that we can count on City of Paris. Our support for organization, definitely. Jan, you have demonstrated in the 5th anniversary how you have managed to bring again the momentum with Paris Declaration and the Paris Summit. Definitely we'll count on you. And maybe just like City of Bonn, City of Katowice, maybe there will be more opportunities for you to talk to Duncan, because as the experienced cities hosting COPs, there will always be good lessons learned and share of best practices. And I think we will still be flexible for numerous, let's say, options or scenarios, virtual, hybrid, access, we will see. But the good thing is that the work is going on at home. We are seeing Japan, we are seeing US, we are seeing other countries to prepare their NDCs. We, as local organizations, are racing to zero, racing to resilience. More updates are coming soon. New websites, new announcements coming soon. We will make sure hundreds and thousands of cities are on track for resilience and climate neutrality, and we will make sure that that Glasgow will be the legacy for a new type of industrialization, as Duncan mentioned, a post-industrialization, post-coal, post-fossil fuel, a much more brighter, greener, and equally shared future for all. That's our goal. Any colleagues to add? Any points? Mark also is responding. Yes, the G20 heads of state and governments meeting closes on 31st of October, immediately before COP in Glasgow. Important opportunity for synergies. Yes, Mark, we're also testing this in practical, what it will mean, whether the heads of state from Rome, will they fly to Glasgow on the same day or the day after, or whether there will be heads of state in COP Glasgow sometime a week later or so. So I think the Italian and the UK and the US colleagues are all discussing this. I see Talia from UK 100 raise her hand. Talia, the floor is yours.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, very well.
Perfect, thanks Yunus. I just wanted to do a quick call to action. UK 100, we're actually doing some research on in-country networks of local government that are working on climate change. And we want to feature at least one network from each continent. Obviously, we're from the UK. So we're really keen to hear from networks all across the globe, especially the Global South. We're going to be looking at kind of the achievements, the learnings from in-country networks. We really want to understand the effectiveness and the impact of convening to influence national government, and kind of how knowledge sharing can help to unlock insights and kind of greater action. So we're launching the research at COP26, and I'd be really interested to hear from any local government networks. So please contact me if you are interested in being interviewed or featured in the research. I will put my email address in the Q&A now. But yeah, please, anyone reach out to me. We'd be really interested to hear from everyone and anyone. Thanks, Yunus.
Thank you, Talia. We would be very happy to support this, especially that UK 100 is part of the LGMA process. And you have been hearing that over these years, or let's say months, we have been working on it. So a very nice initiative, very, very timely initiative. We will be happy to support and collaborate as much as possible. So I think this is a brilliant initiative on behalf of LGMA. I see another comment. No comment, nothing. Okay, Talia shares her email address. That's fantastic. Thanks for all your contributions. In the afternoon, we will have another round. We will be sharing the links to this webinar later on, and stay tuned for our updates on the LGMA list. And we thank you especially, first of all, to Christine and Duncan. We wish them the best of luck in their preparations in hosting us, all of us, and the world for a successful COP. And we thank all LGMA family, friends for joining us, and we'll stay in touch. And thank you very much. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.